Good morning. This is the December 15th, 2023 meeting of the Hudson Valley Regional Board of Review. This hearing is being held via video conference call at the following location: Portland Town Hall, 1 Hetty Street, Portland Manor, New York, 10567. The time is now 9:15 a.m. and this hearing is officially open. The members of the board are Megan Smaler, my right, Shaheen Badali to my far right, Jane Slavin to my immediate left. My name is Marco Generelli. I'm the chairman. And from the Department of State, we have Neil Collier sitting off camera there. We will now hear the scheduled petitions. When you speak, please address the board and give your name, title, and legal address so that our court reporter can have all the information requested. We may have to stop from time to time to consult with our technical staff. In making comments to the board, please provide a descriptive narrative on matters referring to your exhibits to enable the court reporter to enter these into the record. So what we mean by that is if you're referring to a specific drawing or a specific exhibit, please give us that number or title of that piece of information. Before we get started with the first case, I just want to make one more announcement. We are normally a 5-member board. Today, we only have 4, as you can see, so that in the event of a tie, we can send the minutes to a 5th member for review and hopefully break that tie. We will give you the option of proceeding today with the four board members, or you can adjourn to a later meeting where we could possibly have a 5th member. So I'll ask each applicant that before we get started. Okay, so the first hearing is in the matter of Ron Rose Associates, petition number 2023-0593. The petition pertains to a variance to allow a change of occupancy of an existing building. Occupancy groups B, business, construction type 3B, ordinary, 3 stories in height, approximately 4,687 square feet in area, and located at 871 Franklin Avenue, Town of Mount Pleasant, County of Westchester, New York State. The petitioner is seeking relief from 19 NYCRR, Part 1227, Existing Building Code of New York State, Section 1011.1.1.1.1. Change of occupancy classification without separation, which states, where a portion of an existing building is changed to a new occupancy classification, or where there is a change of occupancy within a space where there is a different fire protection system threshold requirement in Chapter 9 of the Building Code of New York State, and that portion is not separated from the remainder of the building with fire barriers having a fire resistance rating as required in the Building Code of New York State for the separate occupancy, the entire building must comply with all of the requirements of Chapter 9 of this code apply throughout the building for the most restrictive occupancy classification in the building and with requirements of this chapter. The petitioner is seeking relief to allow a change of occupancy without complying with Chapter 9 of the Building Code. Okay, so is there somebody on remotely who is going to present the case?
Yes, Chairman. If I could begin now.
Name and address for the record, please.
Yes, sir. My name is Brian Sensabaugh. I'm an attorney with Zarin and Steinmetz on behalf of the applicant Ron Rose Associates Incorporated.
Okay. Before we get started, I believe you heard my comment regarding the number of board members here today. So I just want to ask you if you want to proceed with the 4 board members, or would you like to adjourn until a later date for we might have a 5th member?
I have no problem proceeding with the 4 board members, with the understanding that, as you mentioned earlier, that it would be sent to the 5th board member for review. Is that my understanding?
Right. We would do is take the minutes of the meeting, send it to the fifth member, and then they would vote to break the tie.
Okay.
Okay, so you want to
All right.
proceed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Proceed.
All right. Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Again, my name is Brian Sinsbaugh. I'm an attorney with Zarin and Steinmetz. Here with me, I do have Anthony Kreco, who is the president of Ron Rose Associates Incorporated. He's on remotely. Ron Rose is both the applicant and the owner of the subject property. I also have Tony Federico, the applicant's architect of record from Federico Associates. The property is located at 871 Franklin Avenue in the town of Mount Pleasant. This building fronts on two streets, Franklin Avenue and Commerce Street. So, and due to the grade of the site, the Franklin Ave facade has 3 stories, while the Commerce Street facade is only 2 stories. And this is shown on sheet or drawing number A2 of the drawings that we submitted. We provide images of the building on all sides, and it's visible on this in the first photo on the upper left-hand side that the existing front facade of Commerce Street is only 2 stories, whereas the existing facade on Franklin Street is 3 stories. Because of this, we've referred to the floors in this application as the ground floor, first floor, and attic. Just to be clear, though, the attic is technically a 3rd floor. It has a CO for existing office use. We just refer to it in this instance because jumping from 1st floor to 3rd floor would be confusing as well. So I just want to make sure that that's clear to the board before I continue. The ground floor facing Franklin Avenue and the 1st floor facing Commerce Street, they both have street level entry doors. There's also an interior stairwell from the ground floor to the 1st floor. So there is access to both streets from the 1st floor and ground floor, as well as what I would be referring to as the attic, just for clarity. In 2021, the applicant applied for a special use permit from the town of Mount Pleasant, requesting to convert the 1st floor from office use to 2 residential apartment units. Currently, this 1st floor is vacant. The ground floor is occupied by 2 retail uses, though: Thornwood Dental Care and Sheer Performance Hair Designs, which is a beauty salon. The attic level is occupied for office use. That is the applicant and owner's office. Both the retail and 3rd floor have certificates of occupancy for B business currently, and we're seeking occupancy for residential for the 1st floor. But currently, the building is designed where it has a non-combustible exterior all walls, and 1 hour fire rating separation between the ground floor and 1st floors. We're proposing to sprinkler the 2 residential units on the 1st floor and install 2-hour rated floor/ceiling system between the 1st floor and what I'm calling the attic, or the 3rd floor. We're requesting as mentioned earlier, we're requesting a variance from section 1011.1.1.1 of the 2020 existing building code of New York State, titled Change of Occupancy Classification Without Separation. The basis for our variance request today is that the compliance with this code would create an excessive and unreasonable economic burden. The basis for this is that, first, the sprinkling of the entire building would require significant improvement to the site. We provide an estimate prepared by Armstrong Plumbing and Heating Incorporated. Estimated, the cost of this is already baseline $55,000. This includes sprinkler heads, water valves, strobe lights, and a bell. But most importantly, this does include a new water main. What's proposed here is a 2-inch water main, but it's possible that a larger one may be needed. And if that is the case, that cost will be further increased. The second basis of the economic impact here is that the ground level is already occupied by retail tenants. Those tenants would be forced to temporarily close. That would apply both with regard to the sprinkler system as well as the 2-hour fire rated ceilings if we were to install those on that between the ground floor and the 1st floor. And due to the number of ceiling components that we do have, it's not a simple just throw it up there and be done with it kind of item. If we were to do the 2-hour fire rating, that would result in a significant period of time where those tenants would have to vacate the premises, likely have to remove a lot of the interior improvements that they do have there, in addition to closing, and the lease impacts of that would be significant. Based on this, the combination of the proposed sprinklers, the 2-hour fire rating between the first floor and the attic that's proposed, and sorry, I said the proposed sprinklers and the proposed 2-hour fire rating between the first floor and attic, and the existing 1-hour fire rating between the ground floor and the first floor. We believe that for the size of the building, for the 2 units proposed, given the fact that there is 2 levels of ground level egress between the out of the ground floor and the first floor, as well as interior stairwells between the first and ground floor, we believe that there is sufficient fire safety for the structure. Accordingly, we are asking that this board grant the requested variance on the basis that full compliance would create an excessive and unreasonable economic burden. That's just my summary here, and I'd like to open up for any questions that the board may have.
Okay, thank you. All right, yeah, we'll start with questions first.
Okay.
I'll start. If you
Start?
Yes.
Jane?
Hi, Jane Slavin. I do have a number of questions. You stated that there's an interior stair from the ground floor to the first floor?
Yes.
Okay, that's not shown on the plans. How does that work? There's no staircase shown on the ground floor.
I'm just pulling up the plans here. And maybe I misstated this. I might have our architect get on to explain how the interior works on the site.
Based on the plan, it appears that it only has, ground floor entry, that it does not actually
Okay.
connect to the upper floors.
I'm pulling up the plans now just so I can properly reference the plans. If I misspoke, I will retract that statement if I did misspeak on this. Okay, so yes, that is correct. Jane, I do apologize. So there is ground level egress out of the ground floor and the first floor. There is no interior stairwell between those 2 floors.
Okay, great. What is the construction assembly of the ceiling floor system above the ground floor, between the ground floor and the first floor?
I do have Anthony Federico on. Anthony, are you available to speak?
Tony, you're muted.
Yeah, you have to unmute your microphone.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Before you get started, just please state your name for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Anthony F. Federico. I'm a registered architect for this project.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a 1-hour assembly between the ground floor and the first floor presently.
Right. What is that assembly comprised of?
Yeah, it's a wood joist, and below that is a 5/8 sheetrock ceiling, and then there's a suspended ceiling below that in those dental offices.
What is the wood joist? Is it 2x10s, 2x8s, or are they
Yeah, I
manufactured?
believe they're 2x10s. Yeah.
Okay. How many penetrations are in the assembly? Do you have recessed downlighting, things like that?
No, the lighting is in the suspended ceiling.
So there's no
but there-
penetrations in the floor assembly?
Well, there may be penetrations, yes. And what one of the proposals that we're making is to seal those, any penetrations that are in that ceiling.
Okay. I noticed there's an estimate for the fire suppression system for the first floor, and there's reference to doing the whole building costing an additional $200,000, but that estimate was not provided. Did you actually obtain a formal estimate for the entire building to be sprinklered?
Yeah, I think the owner has to answer that. I did not provide that, no. Anthony, are you online here?
Yes, hi, I am. How you doing? Anthony Greco. And yeah, I am the applicant and the owner of the building. Yeah, I believe I supplied that to Brian, the 55,000 for the sprinkler system, which I don't have it in front of me, but I think the plumber quoted that for the entire building. There was also another bid from a contractor, because in talking to the building inspector and Tony, our architect, there's a possibility that we may have to do pretty strong chance of doing an additional water line to supply the sprinkler system for the whole building. So there was another bid upward of, I believe it was close to 100,000 to come in and basically rip up the parking lot on the Commerce Street side, put another water main in, and then to retrofit the existing building with a fire sprinkler on every floor. We would have to, obviously rip walls up and redo them. So that's how that cost came up. So I'm not sure, Brian, if you supplied that, but I believe I sent it to you. But if not, we can get it to you.
I did provide the $55,000. I don't know
Okay.
that I have the copy of the additional $100,000 bid.
Okay. Well, we do have another bid. So I thought I sent it to you or Corey, but
It may have been Corey. If
Okay.
you want to send it to me now, I can pull. Is this something I can pull up for you, Jane? If we do have that bid, I can share my screen and pull that up.
The $55,000 estimate that you provided is for the entire building?
yeah, and that wasn't even based on, I didn't get sprinkler plans designed because obviously we're here today. So that was a very rough estimate, and that estimate, in my opinion, would go up, not go down, based on, today's pricing. And most contractors are, I think, holding prices for 30 days.
Right, but the estimate states as per specs and plans. But you're saying you didn't have,
Well, let me say, I gave him the plans for the building that our architect designed. I didn't give him the plans that were not designed yet by the fire sprinkler company. So he went by the plans and specs of the existing building, which, it may be pretty close because he's experienced in installing these systems. So, but it's not exact because it wasn't a fire sprinkler plan per se. It was based on the architect's plan.
okay, so it hasn't been determined yet as to whether or not you need to increase the size of the existing water service.
Well, in talking to the building inspector and the engineer from the, what's the name of the fire design systems, they both tell me that the chances of that are pretty high. I believe the sprinkler engineer may have also spoken to the water department. So I don't have a confirmation, but she told me that pretty much likely that is the case.
I'm sorry, she did that.
So it's my understanding that the NFPA doesn't allow combined services as soon as you have a commercial use, so it's a mixed-use building, so I don't understand how a combined or a domestic water service would be permitted. Unless there's a code section I'm missing. I also just, on that note, want to mention that it's a commercial use building. So, I mean, it should have a backflow preventer today. The RPZ is mentioned as but it's a health department regulation. I don't know if we even have the authority to not allow an RPZ, so I just want to state that as well.
Okay, I'm done with my question.
You're done?
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. You want to continue, Shane?
So, yeah, I had a couple more.
I'm sorry, can you say that RPZ again? I missed that.
So does the building currently have an RPZ in it?
Backflow preventer, yeah,
I don't know. The building was built 30 years ago. We have a CO. Why would it need?
Unfortunately, it's a retroactive regulation, so you wouldn't be in compliance today with the health department, and it's something that should be installed immediately, and then it gets tested once a year. So if you did have it, you'd probably be familiar with it. And so unfortunately, it's my understanding that we would not have the authority to rule out an RPZ, and that I personally would not support removing that.
Right, okay. No, I don't know. I can't answer that, but
Okay.
I will have to
And
check.
then, does anybody on the call know, what type of sprinkler system is being proposed? Is it a system in accordance with NFPA 13 or is something 13R proposed? Again, because it's a mixed use building, I'm not certain.
I don't know that I can't. Tony, do you know?
Tony,
I'm assuming.
No, I don't remember, quite frankly. Well, they didn't quote it to me anyhow.
Oh, sorry, so I believe it'd be a type 13 system, and I believe that would unequivocally require a separate water main.
Yeah.
So-
I think you're right, because in
Okay.
speaking to the engineer from Fire Sprinkler Design, I think that's what she told me.
And in that case, I'll just make you aware that you'll then need an RPZ both on your domestic and the sprinkler. It may not need an RPZ, but it'll need a backflow
Yeah,
preventer.
that I'm aware of, but I wasn't
Okay.
aware of the first comment you made, but I'll have to check that.
Does the building currently have any fire alarm systems?
It does.
That's great. So the commercial spaces have fire alarms in both of them?
They do.
And those are monitored by a supervisory system? Like,
Yes. Yes.
okay, great. I mean, it's not labeled here, but is it fair to say that the travel distances in these buildings are approximately less than 75 feet, it looks like? Is that a fair statement?
Yes, much less than 75 feet, yes. Mhm.
Great. And, all right, I think that's actually, oh, and sorry, I did have one more question. A site plan wasn't submitted, so do you know what the minimum separation to the next building is? Is it just touching?
No,
it is not touching, but I will try to pull up the site plan.
No.
well, the dimension is on there. It's a couple of feet.
Yeah, it's probably 2 feet.
So less than 5 feet?
I
Yeah,
believe so.
I think it is less than 5 feet.
Thank you. And that's all my questions.
Okay, thank you, Shaheen. Megan?
Uh, Thank you. Following up on James' question about the floor structure, the proposed upgrade in the rating between the first floor and the attic, what is that, what is the detail of that assembly that you're proposing?
Well, that'll be a 2-hour rated floor ceiling between those two floors. It has to be upgraded. It presently is 1 hour. I believe it's going to be the double layer sheetrock, 5/8 and resilient channels.
Okay, and are all of the partitions being demolished? Like, are you doing that both below and above the assembly, both in the first floor space and the attic space? Are all of the partitions coming out?
Yes,
But not on the attic floor, just on the first.
no, just on the apartment floor.
How is this building heated?
Forced hot air, heating and cooling combo.
And where is the equipment located?
Let's see, we have, let me just think here. We have units on the ground floor, the air handlers that serve the dentist and the hair salon. And then we have units up in the attic floor that serve the attic and the first floor. And then the compressors are up on the roof.
Okay, so there will be chases or ductwork coming down from the attic into the first floor?
Right, there'll be a fire
Yes.
dampers provided there as well. Mhm.
Okay. What is the fuel source?
Gas, gas.
Is there gas distribution within the building as well?
What do you mean? Is for appliances?
Will the range be fueled with the ranges in the kitchen, the dryers, is there
I see what you mean.
gas
Yeah.
piping?
You know, no, I think I'd like to avoid that. So I'd probably go with electric and then, what I'm thinking on the new heating system is a ductless electric combo heating and cooling to minimize, everything we're talking about.
And how about domestic hot water?
Also want to go with electric.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I said hot water would be electric also. Yeah, and actually the existing hot water heaters for the existing spaces were all electric.
The attic right now, is that fit up for offices already?
It is. Yep, it
How
is.
many
And that,
people, how many people work up there?
one, just me.
I noticed what seemed to be a shower in the bathroom. Is there a shower in the bathroom up there?
There is a shower.
Okay. And an egress window in the one office. Are
Cool.
there any plans to convert this to an apartment in the future?
No. No plans.
I think that answers all of my questions.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, the few questions that I have are already answered, but I just want to just make a point regarding the installation of the two apartments on the, I guess we're calling it the first floor, correct?
Correct.
Not the ground floor. And then at the ground floor, you have the two businesses currently, correct?
That's correct.
And you stated that in order to, if you did want to put a full sprinkler system in, you would have to interrupt the two businesses downstairs in order to get this in. But, I mean, I just don't understand how you're going to get the two kitchens in to the two first floor apartments without interrupting the two businesses down below. I mean, you're gonna have plumbing lines, water supply lines, you're gonna have waste lines, you're gonna have electric lines. I would imagine you're gonna have to demo or partially demo the ceiling inside the ground floor spaces in order to achieve that.
Well, the existing first floor has two bathrooms, three bathrooms actually. Well, two, sorry. And it also has a mini kitchen. So the water lines are already there. So the plumber would tap into the existing waste and he's got the water lines up there. As far as the electric, each space on the first floor already has its own electric supply. Initially it was, when we built it, I think we have 3 or 4, maybe 4 separate meters. So that's already technically inside the space. So we're not going to have to tap into that.
Yeah, I did see I didn't mention the bathrooms. I saw the bathrooms there, and they're basically going to end up in approximately the same space. But
Yeah.
Two
So-
kitchens
Right. So,
are really in the rear corner of the building. And as I see it right now, I don't see any existing plumbing there. So I would imagine you're going to have to do some significant demolition of the ceiling on the ground floor spaces in order to get the plumbing lines over to those locations as well, in the plumbing supply lines and the waste lines. And I don't know where the main waste of the building goes out, but it could traverse the whole space or to the front, to the back, I don't know. And additionally, the electric lines, you're gonna have to supply, obviously outlets, electric for the dishwasher, if there is one. You mentioned the electric ranges, so I just don't understand how you're going to avoid not doing some demolition to the ceiling of the ground floor spaces. And then beyond that, I mean, if you're gonna have to do that, do significant demolition to the ceiling, then, that you can do the demolition, possibly get some sprinkler heads in that ground floor space.
Can I make a statement?
Sure.
This plan that you're looking at was designed based on the building being entirely sprinklered. Obviously, if this variance is approved, we may have to make modifications to that layout of those both those kitchens and baths to try to take advantage of the plumbing situation, so we can do the at a minimum anything in the ceiling below us.
Yeah, but you can't submit a set of plans to us and ask us to review these plans and possibly grant the variance and then tell us, well, this may not be the actual layout. I can't, we can't, it's really not possible for us to make an educated decision if you're gonna be shifting things around here. You know what I mean? So, think that's a statement. I'm not asking a question.
Okay,
But let me just ask you a question about the plumbing. When I'm ripping up the floor of the first floor, everything is going to be in the middle of the joist. So yeah, I may have to do some work in that ceiling. But here's what I'm trying to eliminate. The bottom line is this office space has been empty for 3 years. I can't give it away, okay? And I'm not using that as an excuse. But it wouldn't be sensible for me as a business owner to spend close to $200,000 to sprinkle the building, and it's not your problem, and cost me probably less to convert it to apartments. So at this point, I'm in a catch-22, and I have to, get creative. So that's really, at the end of the day, to just put it the way it is, if you will. I mean,
We got that. We read the
right.
package.
And right. So
And
I'm
you
not
have a
trying
hard
to
time.
avoid, providing fire protection, but I'm trying to come somewhere in the middle where I'm providing the best fire protection, but at the same time, as a business owner, that's really what I'm trying to do.
No, I understand that, and that we got the gist of your basis, that you're having trouble renting the space, and you went for a special use permit to change it to residential. And the town, obviously supported it. They gave you the special use permit, and I understand that they also have no objection to us granting the variance. But I'm just, if one of your arguments is that you're not gonna have to do any demolition, extensive demolition to the ground floor spaces, again, I'm not understanding how that's gonna do it. Now, you're saying you're gonna just rip up the floors on that floor and install it that way. That's fine. You could probably do some of it that way, but I don't think you can do 100% of it that way.
No, that's what I said. I'm not saying, I'm probably not going to avoid affecting the ground floor completely, but I can't have a dental office who's been there 20 years and ask them to, it's just going to be disruptive. Now, if those spaces were empty, then it'd be a different story, so that's what I'm trying to maneuver.
Okay. All right. Okay, that's all I had. So, at this point, we're gonna open it up to any questions from anybody who is here, live in attendance here at the meeting room. If there's any, questions or comments, either in support or in opposition to the application. Okay, not hearing anybody here. Is there anyone who is joining this meeting remotely who would like to make comment on this petition or application? Okay, so I'm not hearing anybody. Before we go into deliberation, is there any other, Mr. Sensabaugh, you want to make any other comments?
Well, it does sound to me that based on this, that the board does appear to want to see a plan that would show the minimized impacts on the first floor if we were to, based on the premise of our argument. The other item that it sounded like that there may have been some questions with regard to the estimate and clarity as to what the full economic impact may be. Knowing that if that is true, and and knowing that you do only have 4 members on the board today, and the 5th member may not, they may see the minutes, but they may not, I don't know if this video is being recorded. If they may watch the video, I don't know if that we can make a request at this point to hold the meeting open, hearing open, and adjourn to the next meeting and provide that additional information in the meantime, or how that process would work. I don't know. I know that there are notice requirements typically for a variance with the ZBA, with the state. I'm unaware if there is a specific notice requirement that we'd have to hit in terms of restarting the notice period. But I do want to make sure that the board is comfortable with the information that they have before making a vote on this.
Yeah, I mean, if you request an adjournment and, you know, we, granted, I don't believe it has to be re-noticed. Is that correct, Neil? Right, so you wouldn't have to re-notice it, you wouldn't have to reapply, we would just adjourn it to the next available, you know, meeting date, which I believe right now is February. We changed it though, right? Yeah, we went to the, I think we went to the 3rd week, right? Yeah, so right now, we are scheduled for February 20th, would be the next date that you would be able to come back to us.
Okay.
I mean,
do you mind if I,
at this point, if you want us to go into deliberations, and then, you know, discuss it.
if you can, if I could speak to my client while you do so.
Yeah, and then we'll come back and then, you know, we could talk then, okay?
Okay. I appreciate that.
All
Thank you.
right, so and then we're gonna go off the record to go into deliberations.
Thank you.
Thanks. Now we're gonna go back on. Okay, we're back on. Brian, do you have a comment?
Yes, sir. Yes, Chairman. I did speak with my client. We would like to proceed with the adjournment and return at the next available date.
Okay. So as we mentioned, the next meeting is February 20th. So I would suggest that you get together with Neil Collier and coordinate the resubmission so that we have it in time for the next meeting.
All right, understood. Certainly
Okay.
will. Thank you very much, Chairman, members of the
Thank you.
board.
Okay. All right, we're off the record.
Off the record. We're on the record.
Okay, the next petition is petition number 2023-0600. The aggrieved parties are Brian Benetti and Joe Ely or Eli. The petition pertains to an appeal of a code official's determination regarding the approval of a subdivision of 4 lots located at Buttonwood Road, Town of Rhinebeck, County of Dutchess, New York State. Petitioner is appealing the determination of a code enforcement official regarding the application of 19 NYCRR Part 1225 Fire Code of New York State, Sections 511.2.6, 503.1, 503.2.1, 503.2.2, and Appendix D, which states in summary that the fire code official may require or permit modifications to fire apparatus access road dimensions. The petitioner is appealing the determination of the code official. Okay, so is there someone here, either in person or remotely, that's going to present the case?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is Jonathan Tingley. I'm an attorney for the petitioners with the law firm of Gilchrist Tingley. My legal address is 251 River Street, Suite 201, Troy, New York.
Okay, at the beginning of the meeting, I don't know if you heard it, but I had mentioned the fact that we only have 4 board members. And if it does result in a tie, we would send the minutes to a 5th member to break the tie. So do you want to proceed with the 4 members, or would you want to adjourn to a later date?
We would like to proceed.
Okay, all right, so go ahead and present the case.
Okay, would it be permissible for me to share my screen so I can walk through our exhibits and the provisions of the fire code?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so I believe you can all see my screen now. It appears to be sharing. Again, my name is Jonathan Tingley with the law firm of Gilchrist Tingley. We represent Brian Benetti and Joseph Ely, both of whom live on Buttonwood in the town of Rhinebeck. We are appealing from the determination of the town of Rhinebeck fire inspector, wherein he determined that the common access drive for a proposed new subdivision as proposed is compliant with the 2020 New York State Fire Code. This is an overview of the Alderkill subdivision, and this comes from our submitted Exhibit B at sheet C5. First, I'll note that all of the access provided to the new homes as well as to Mr. Benetti's home is along one common access drive, which I have highlighted here on your screen. And that access drive runs from Buttonwood Lane, which is a public road, to a dead-end cul-de-sac at the end there. The proposal would create 4 new building lots. This is the Alderkill subdivision. Here's one proposed new residence, 2, 3, and 4. And in addition to that, Mr. Benetti's home is located here, and that connects in to that same common access road. In addition to what's shown on the subdivision plat, there is a conservation easement that was proposed and approved as part of the project. This is Exhibit C from our submission, and it's located at page 5. And that conservation easement provides that for each building lot, there shall be permitted 1 principal residence and 1 accessory residence. And each of the principal residences on lots 1, 2, and 3 can be up to 4,000 square feet. The principal residence on lot 4 can be up to 4,500 square feet. Each of the accessory residences that would be permitted, again, 1 on each lot, could be up to 1,200 square feet of livable area. Also, from the same conservation easement, again, Exhibit C, page 5 through page 6, in addition to the principal residences and the accessory residences, normal and customary accessory roofed structures, other buildings, in other words, such as garages, sheds, barns, studios, pool houses, and the like, are also permitted on each of the building lots, as long as the total square footage of all buildings on the lot does not exceed 6,500 square feet. And then finally, on lot 3 of the proposed subdivision, there is an allowed additional 1,000 square foot roofed building for a storage barn and also for use for educational activities. So the buildings that are proposed to be served by this common access drive include the Benetti home. They include 4 new principal residences up to about 4,000 square foot each, along with potential 4 additional new accessory residences, 1 on each of the new lots, along with potential garages, barns, sheds, pool houses, etc., and along with a potential additional building for storage and educational use. That results in at least 5 residences to be served by the common access drive. It could be up to 9 principal residences, 9 residences, 5 of which would be principal, 4 of which would be accessory residences, plus the additional non-residential structures that are allowed under the conservation easement. This is an excerpt from our Exhibit B, sheet C4. It shows a little more closely the common access drive coming in off of Buttonwood Lane, extending back, going around, and then ending in the cul-de-sac here. And what I'd like to point out are the following stations along that: Station 2, Station 3, and Station 4 are all before the Benetti driveway that connects in. Station 5 is then after that connection with the Benetti home. And you'll see that there are a few other markers for Station 5 back here near the terminus, the cul-de-sac. So Station 2, again, Stations 2, 3, and 4 are all between Buttonwood Lane and Mr. Benetti's driveway that connects into the common access drive. And what you'll see on the details for Station 2 is that there is a 12-foot width for that section of, or that area of roadway. What I'd also like to point out is that there is a retaining wall here that has a fairly significant drop off from the roadway, which would limit the ability of any vehicles to proceed on that side in the event the roadway was blocked, because there would be a drop off, a significant drop off. Again, Station 3, this is again between Buttonwood Lane and Mr. Benetti's home. Again, it shows a 12-foot width. It also shows that the composition of the roadway is going to be dense graded aggregate, which I understand to mean crusher run. It won't, as I understand it, be paved or concrete. And again, just for clarity for the record, these details are shown in our Exhibit B sheet C9. So again, Station 2 and Station 3 show a 12-foot width. At least Station 3 shows dense graded aggregate as the surface. And then if we go to Station 4, again, before the Benetti driveway, you'll see there that, again, the width is shown as 12 feet. Once you get past the Benetti home, and you'll recall from the earlier sheet that there was a number of areas identified for Station 5. And this is the detail sheet on Station 5 from our Exhibit B, sheet C9. Again, showing dense graded aggregate as the surface and showing a 12-foot width. What I'd also like to point out is if we go back to this sheet, and I'll remove the highlighting there, we have culverts here, here, and here on the common access drive. So in addition to the width and the material, there are culverts that pass underneath the common access drive. During the review process, and quite frankly, after the initial determination was made by the planning board in the town of Rhinebeck on this project, there was review of the common access drive by the town's designated review engineer firm, which is CPL Architecture, Engineering, and Planning. This is in our submission. It's a memorandum dated June 26, 2023. It is Exhibit D of our submission. And what it says in there in relevant part is that the proposed common driveway measures approximately 1,260 feet plus or minus in length from the edge of pavement of Buttonwood Lane to the end of the cul-de-sac. It also notes that the fire code requires a 20-foot wide access for roads from 0 to 500 feet in length, a 26-foot wide width for access roads from 501 to 750 feet in length, and that access roads that are longer than 750 feet require, quote, special approval. They also note that there are requirements for a 96-foot diameter cul-de-sac for access roads greater than 150 feet. And they point out that the common driveway width is in fact supposed to be, or is proposed to be, 12 feet with 2 widenings to accommodate pull-offs, and that the proposed cul-de-sac measures 78 feet across. They conclude at that point that it does not appear to meet fire code requirements. Also, during that process in May, end of May 2023, the Rhinebeck Fire Department submitted an email comment wherein they recommended that the International Fire Code for roads and driveways be followed, and that what they were referring to was found under Appendix D of the 2020 New York State Fire Code. Under the 2020 New York State Fire Code, driveways that serve more than 4 buildings shall meet the design requirements for fire apparatus access roads as specified in Section 503. And the word that is key in our view is the word shall. This is mandatory, typically rather than a may or should, the term shall is used. This proposed access road here will serve at least 5 residences and could serve up to 9 residences along with several additional buildings. And therefore, this provision does apply to this project. Section 503.1 of the 2020 New York State Fire Code provides that fire apparatus access roads shall be provided and maintained in accordance with sections 503.11 through 503.13, as well as Appendix D. And so in this case, the access road here must comply with those provisions. The Appendix D of the 2020 New York State Fire Code includes D 102.1, which provides that all buildings, portions of buildings, shall be accessible to fire department apparatus by way of an approved fire apparatus access road with an asphalt, concrete, or other approved driving surface capable of supporting the imposed load of fire apparatus weighing up to 75,000 pounds. In this case, the access road is proposed to be unpaved. It includes several culvert crossings. And on this record, it's unclear whether or not that constitution of the road would support a fire apparatus that weighs up to 75,000 pounds. In addition, D 103.4 of the New York State Fire Code, Appendix D, indicates for dead-end fire apparatus access roads as opposed to access roads that have two ways in and out. In the event they are in excess of 150 feet, they shall be provided. Again, the term shall be provided with width and turnaround revisions in accordance with Table D 103.4. This access road will exceed 150 feet. According to CPL, it will exceed 1,000 feet. The 2020 New York State Fire Code Table D 103.4 in the Appendix D includes the following, as was noted by CPL in their review memo. For access roads that are dead ends, that are under 150 feet, they must be at least 20 feet wide. No turnaround is required. Between 150 feet and 500 feet, the access road must be at least 20 feet wide. And then there are requirements for a turnaround that comply with figure D 103.1. For access road, dead end access roads that are 501 to 750 feet, the width of the access road must be at least 26 feet. And again, there must be a turnaround that complies with figure D 103.1. What I'd like to point out is as the length of the dead end fire apparatus access road increases, so do the requirements to ensure access and the ability to get in and out. And so the width of the fire apparatus access road naturally increases because a wider road for fire protection is better. And then also as the length increases, the requirements for the turnaround appear. And so for dead end fire apparatus access roads that are over 750 feet, there is special approval required. But I do think that from an interpretation perspective, these other requirements, the 26-foot wide, along with compliance with figure D103.1, are absolute minimums. In addition, there may be additional requirements to ensure access and the ability to get in and out that could be required under the special approval provision. So again, this access road will exceed 1,000 feet, but is only proposed to be 12 feet wide. Figure D103.1 again shows the turnaround or pull off or clearance around fire hydrants design standards. And in this case, we have a proposed cul-de-sac at the end of the fire apparatus access road. And under this figure, it must be 96 feet in diameter. As CPL noted in their memo, the access road here proposes a cul-de-sac with a 78-foot diameter rather than a 96-foot diameter. So in our view, and it's our position that the common access road that serves these properties, including Mr. Benetti's home, is required because of this project to comply with the design requirements of the 2020 New York State Fire Code Appendix D, that those are minimum requirements, and that in this case, this common access road fails to comply with those requirements. Again, to summarize, at least a 26-foot wide road is required and only 12 feet are provided. It must be paved, but it's unpaved in this case. And they must have a 96-foot diameter cul-de-sac, but here they only provide a 78-foot diameter cul-de-sac. Now, under section 503.22, which was cited by the fire inspector in his determination, but it was unclear if he exercises authority under that provision. It indicates that the fire code official shall have the authority to require or permit modifications to the required access widths. It's limited to that. It's not limited, or it doesn't include other aspects, limited to modifications to the required access widths, where those widths, those required access widths, are inadequate for fire or rescue operations, or where it's necessary to meet the public safety objectives of the jurisdiction. This provision does not give carte blanche to the fire code official to disregard, in our view, to disregard the minimum requirements for fire apparatus access roads, particularly dead-end fire apparatus access roads under Appendix D and the table and figures that are shown there. We did submit on December 6th a copy of a New York State Supreme Court decision that was issued October 16th of 2023, just about 2 months ago, wherein a New York State Supreme Court judge interpreted this very provision that I'm talking about now of the fire code. And therein, he indicates that while that section does enable the local authority having jurisdiction to modify minimum widths, he points out that according to the plain language of Fire Code Section 503.2.2, the section we're talking about, the fire code official only has discretion under the 2020 New York State Fire Code to increase the width of a fire apparatus access road when such width is inadequate, and that there is no discretion to reduce the width of a fire apparatus access road under the 2020 New York Fire Code. And I think it's important to point out at this juncture that New York State adopted the International Fire Code provisions and made those law. It did not, in our view, adopt any commentary associated with those provisions. And once the provisions of the fire code become law, at that point, it becomes a matter of legal interpretation about what those provisions mean. And we have here, and we have submitted a court case that is directly on point that confirms that it is the interpretation of the fire code by New York State, by the New York State court system, at least this Supreme Court, that the fire code official does not have the discretion under that section to reduce the required width of a fire apparatus access road. In his September 2023 determination by the fire code official here, he indicates that it is his view, his determination that the common access drive as proposed is compliant with section 511 of the fire code. We disagree with that, and we think the Board of Review should find to the contrary. He indicates that there are adequate dimensions for width. We believe that the evidence before the board and the fire code shows that that is not correct. He indicates that there's adequate measures for turnaround. Again, the fire code and the evidence here shows, in our view, that that is not correct. We don't know about the stability and the design of the road in light of the culverts and the surface because there's nothing in the determination that indicates that it would support a 75,000 pound fire apparatus vehicle. And he indicates that no modifications to the plans are required for compliance. And so, in our view, this is wrong and must be reversed. I'd like to go back to the section that gives the fire code official the authority to permit modifications to the required access widths. And I'd like to point out again that the jurisdiction or the authority to require different access widths is not unlimited. There are standards that must be adhered to. He can only require different widths where the minimum required under the fire code are inadequate for fire or rescue operations, or where it's necessary to meet the public safety objectives of the jurisdiction. So the question arises, are the widths under the 2020 New York State Fire Code, the minimum required widths, quote, inadequate for fire or rescue operations? And it seems self-evident that a 12-foot wide road is not as adequate as the required 26-foot wide road. It seems self-evident that where the fire code sets a minimum width, that is the minimum adequate roadway for a fire apparatus access road, and anything less, and certainly something that's less than half of that, is not more adequate than what the fire code requires. And then the next question is a 12-foot width for the fire apparatus access road necessary to meet the public safety objectives of the jurisdiction? And the question arises, how is reducing the width from 26 feet down to less than half of that necessary to meet any public safety objectives? It seems counterintuitive. In this case, this is a dead-end apparatus access road, and it's off of Buttonwood Lane, which is itself a dead-end public road that ends in a cul-de-sac. And so the amount of travel along Buttonwood Lane is not what you would see at a through road or at major intersections. And so there is no need to manage traffic going into this fire apparatus access road. And therefore, perhaps a narrower curb cut makes sense because it goes in one way and you don't want two-way traffic at that point. And so a wider one may be detrimental to a public safety objective. That's simply not the case here. Here we have a dead-end fire apparatus access road on a sparsely populated, sparsely traveled Buttonwood Lane that is really does demand meeting the minimum required width under the fire code of 26 feet. In any event, there's absolutely nothing that we've seen in the record or in his determination that we're appealing from that indicates what public safety objectives are being met by a fire apparatus access road that is less than half as wide as what the fire code would require. And I think it's important to step back at this juncture and remember that this is not a planning or a zoning determination where we're dealing with, if a decision is made that is erroneous, there may be adverse lighting impacts or noise impacts or things aren't as screened as well from the neighbors, things of that nature. You know, as this board is well aware, and I don't need to remind the board of this, but certainly it's helpful for me to remember what section 101.3 of the fire code says, which is that the purpose of the code is to establish minimum requirements for providing a reasonable level of life safety and property protection from the hazards of fire in new and existing building structures and premises, and to provide a reasonable level of safety to firefighters and emergency responders during emergency operations. If a 12-foot wide access road that is unpaved, that crosses culverts, that serves up to at least 9 residences, is approved or is approvable, and something, an emergency, God forbid, occurs in that area, if there are impacts arising from the fact that it's only 12 feet wide or that the surface wasn't closely examined, the first question will be, how did this get approved? And for Mr. Benetti in particular, who lives off of that common access drive, it's imperative from his perspective that this fire apparatus access road meet minimum standards. And it should be recalled that there are ways to avoid meeting those minimum widths, for instance, with fewer buildings. But the applicant here has chosen a certain number of buildings and a certain number of lots. And that's what give rise to these minimum standards. So I think it's important to remember the 30,000 foot view of, we are talking about safety. We are not talking about ways of finding the ability to evade these minimum requirements that were drafted with thoughtfulness by the International Codes Council and then also adopted by New York State. And also, I'll point to section 102.1 of the New York State Fire Code, which indicates that there's a conflict, where there's a conflict between a general requirement and a specific requirement. The specific requirement shall be applicable. And that's important here in particular because there are specific requirements, not just for fire apparatus access roads, but for dead end fire apparatus access roads. And so that authority to make changes to the required minimum widths that would otherwise apply under the fire code is a more of a general authority that applies to fire apparatus access roads in general, but there are specific minimum requirements that are identified for dead end apparatus, fire apparatus access roads. And so we think those specific requirements should prevail over a general authority to require or permit modifications. So just to summarize, we are asking the Board of Review to reverse the September 7, 2023 determination of the Town of Rhinebeck Fire Inspector. The common access road here is required to comply with the design requirements of Appendix D. It fails to comply with the design requirements of Appendix D in at least 3 respects. It's not 26 feet wide, it's not paved, and it doesn't include a 96-foot diameter cul-de-sac. We're also asking the Board of Review to find that the fire code official lacked the authority to permit a 12-foot wide unpaved dead-end common access road in this particular case. There was no factual basis of which we are aware for permitting a 12-foot wide unpaved dead-end common access road. And therefore, again, we ask that the board reverse the determination of the Town of Rhinebeck fire inspector.
Okay, thank you. What we'll do at this point is we're going to open up this, up to questions from the board members, okay? So, let's go to Jane, you want to go first?
I do not have any questions at this time.
You do not, okay. Shaheen?
I'll just make a commentary that typically in considering other applications where fire apparatus access roads were brought before us, we did receive pictures that display and give us an understanding of the size and the width of the road and what obstructions are possibly there, as well as a description of the equipment and a narrative from the fire department of how emergency services are operated. And it is my opinion that, that information may have assisted in my understanding. That being said, I do not believe that this case, that we are considering any of what was presented before us essentially. So, no further questions, just that commentary.
Okay, Megan?
Not at this time.
This time. Yeah, two things. One is I would second the statement that Shaheen made. We've had previous fire access road issues come before us, and one in particular actually had, a video, if you remember, of the fire truck or piece of equipment actually going up the road. That was really helpful. Secondly is, and I don't know if you know the answer to this question because you're not representing the applicant here who submitted the design. So judging on what you just said, that they're going to leave the road as is at the 12-foot mark. So there's no plans that you know of in the future that this is going to remain a private road, I guess, essentially is what I'm asking. There's no plans to have the town take it over at some point that you're aware of?
I'm not aware of any plans of the town to take over this road.
I mean, if it was going to be the dedicated town road, obviously it would have to be improved significantly. So, okay.
May I address the issue of pictures and demonstration of the equipment on
Absolutely.
the roadway? So in this case, this is an appeal from a determination that was made rather than a request for a variance. And so we think it's important for the board to remember that the determination we're appealing was made based on information. And if there were information provided that shows the equipment or that shows the width that would justify a deviation from the otherwise applicable requirements, that should have been before the fire code official when he made that determination. And we're not aware of that having been provided or considered. All we have is the September 7th determination, along with what I will refer to as Exhibit F in our submission, which is a request from the applicant's attorney that the fire code official issue a determination on whether it was acceptable or not. So.
Apparently know his own equipment, how to use it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is too, is that you as the petitioner here could have provided that also.
I understand that. Yes, I understand that. I'll just note that again, that this is an appeal. And so typically in an appeal, in most contexts, we look at what was decided and on what basis it was decided and determine if that was correct. And so that's the approach that we took.
Right, but you can, I think you also understand that, either we can grant the appeal or deny the appeal. Or we do have another option. We could fashion a remedy that would be acceptable to both parties, and, that piece of information or that, that video or pictures or whatever could have helped us get to that point if that's where we were going to go, so I just want to make that point.
Understood.
Okay, so I think that concludes the questions and comments from the board. So at this point, I'm going to open this up to questions or comments from anybody else who was here at the meeting. So we're going to start with the people who are here live, so with us, and then we'll go to the people who are attending this meeting remotely who may want to comment or raise a question. So is there someone here that would like to step forward? Yeah, sure. You can sit right here, and then you just make sure you state your
Certainly.
your name and for the record.
Very cold.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah, I commented earlier, but I've been in. First of all, my name is Michael T. Liguri, Liguri. I am an attorney. I am at a law firm called Hogan, Rossi, and Livory. I submitted a notice of appearance to Mr. Collier in advance of this morning's meeting. I am here with Carl Duncanberg. Carl is the principal, the applicant for purposes of the application before the Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board for the Alder Hill subdivision. The subdivision is a conservation density subdivision that was submitted in accordance with and for which has a negative declaration under the seeker, the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and what's called a preliminary subdivision approval, which means that under the Town of Rhinebeck subdivision regulations, it has met the requirements in order to achieve the level of preliminary approval. You're not at the point where there would be final approval considered. There's matters that need to continue to be resolved before the board. That would happen.
Just raise your voice a touch.
Yeah, certainly.
We actually have to get the reporter's shoes.
No problem.
Okay.
Okay. I apologize for that.
Sorry.
Just some history of how we got to the determination. Mr. Duncanberg submitted his application together with his engineer and processed that in front of the planning board, which included reviews by the town's engineer, its planning consultant, as well as its attorney to identify and address legal issues as they come about. This project, there was a site visit by the former fire chief, Kyle Emmy, who had reviewed and walked the proposed area of the road. Just so the board understands, this road is currently, it does not exist. It exists only on paper. It's proposed. But it was able to be walked to identify the places where pull-offs would be appropriate, where access as far as the diameter of the cul-de-sac that is proposed would be suitable for turnaround for purposes of the fire department vehicles. So there has been review. This was not just a blind review or approval by the municipality. Those matters were all contemplated, and this project, unlike many other projects, has been the subject of a public hearing for almost the entirety of its application. And what that means is that typically in a more typical subdivision situation, an applicant would have numerous submittals before the planning board until they determined it to be complete. And then at that point, the public hearing would be open. Oftentimes neighbors would complain and say, well, it appears to be a fait accompli. You guys have done all this review and we're only here to comment on it. This was not the case. There was comment at every step of the way. Ultimately, that process resulted in the determination under seeker to say that the proposal would not have the potential for a significant adverse impact on the environment. And based on that, they adopted a negative determination, which is kind of counterintuitive, but it's the nomenclature is that when there won't be an impact, it's a negative determination. The planning board then granted preliminary subdivision approval, and while the determination of the fire inspector was not in hand, it is unfortunate that it was not in hand prior to, but it was not a requirement of the grant of preliminary. When the subject of whether or not this was in fact a fire access road came up, it reached a certain point where Mr. Duncanberg had reached out to my office to say, I may need legal counsel on this particular issue, and I'd like your assistance in getting us to where we need to go in however fashion that would be. I had a meeting with the building department to do an initial review of the fire code and a review to see if this was in fact actually a quote unquote fire access road, because it's proposed to serve for subdivision lots, and the subdivision lots contain one building each, which is a single family home on each parcel. That is what was currently approved, preliminary approved by the planning board. And also whether or not the exemption that is provided for under Bear with me here. Let me just pull up the code section.
511.
Yeah, 511.11, which is, does Mr. Benetti's lot, by virtue of the fact that it was approved and developed in accordance with the subdivision that was created prior to 2011, and for which there would be no amendment to that subdivision plat, are we outside of the category of a fire access road? And in a lesser category, which would be the 12-foot width road that is the subject of the preliminary subdivision approval. We had some conversation about that, and then I reached out to the fire inspector in an attempt to obtain a determination. The fire inspector is a part-time employee of the town of Rhinebeck. It's not somebody who has an office in town hall that you could just stop in and say hello to, so I reached out with a question as to whether or not this would qualify either one way or the other. Understanding that we don't exert any influence on the fire inspector whatsoever. The determination was, it was determined that the subdivision as proposed qualified, was approved in compliance with the fire code. And that was the determination that was received. And thereafter, either prior, I think it was actually prior to, Mr. Benetti and Mr. Eli had brought an action against the planning board and Mr. Duncanberg via what's called an Article 78. That is a section of the civil practice law and rules where you could challenge administrative decisions. They had brought an Article 78 claiming that the grant of preliminary subdivision approval prior to the determination by the fire inspector was illegal, arbitrary, capricious. And then they brought this appeal to the Division of Codes. When the appeal was brought, we had reached out to Mr. Collier because we felt we were in an unusual situation. It was my firm who was here recently with the aerial footage of that fire truck, and my partner Don Rossi was the presenter on that case. We are familiar with bringing applications for variances, being the actual party affected, and so we were in an unusual situation as representing an owner whose determination was being appealed by somebody else. I wasn't quite sure of what the process would be in that particular case, so we reached out to Mr. Collier, and what we did was we generated a cover letter to the board with the intent to illustrate the purpose of the conservation density subdivision regulations, which were adopted by the town of Rhinebeck. And here we have a 145-acre parcel of land with the proposal to create 4 additional house parcels. The purpose of the reduction in the width of subdivision roads, the reduction not being the reduction in fire code, but the reduction from a town road width, which is identical to the fire code, basically 50-foot right of way. And I think actually a 24-foot width, but 24, 26, it doesn't really matter. The goal of the town of Rhinebeck in adopting those regulations is to promote development that is consistent with the character, the rural character of the town of Rhinebeck, and avoiding cookie cutter subdivision roads to facilitate residential development. And essentially the trade-off is, and I lay that out in my letter with regard to the cost, is there's a recognition that it's expensive to build town roads. And basically the trade-off is if you come in and you conserve property, we will allow you to have up to 6 houses served by a 12-foot road. And as you can see by our estimate, the difference in construction cost for a fire access road versus a driveway, it's approximately $360,000 to construct a town road. It's about $120,000 to construct the driveway. And the rationale of the town board in adopting those regulations is to say, we recognize that people develop for economic purposes. And if you're willing to trade with us and conserve, we're willing to allow you to keep some money in your pocket and not have to bear the cost of clearing a 50-foot right-of-way, constructing a 26-foot road. This is what we'd like to see, and this is the method that we're going to get there by doing it. And that intent did not involve making people unsafe. That was not the intention behind those regulations. So for Mr. Duncanberg, we feel based on the extensive amount of review that's gone on by the town engineer, our own engineer, the site visit that occurred by the fire department, fire chief, with his own apparatus in mind, that this proposal is safe. It's consistent with the town regulations, and is consistent with the fire code, provided that Mr. Benetti's lot is in fact exempt. For us, we would seek, and honestly, it doesn't matter, it's form over substance, or for us, if the board upholds the determination, certainly we would not be upset. If the board reversed the determination, but in the interest of substantial justice, recognizes all of the criteria or the factors that went into the preliminary subdivision approval here, would consider a variance, we would be receptive to either one of those options. And ideally, I can't speak for the petitioners. We just seek to avoid being in a position of continual litigation. That's the position that we're in right now. The concern is if you uphold the determination, they're just going to amend their complaint and say that you guys, there was no way to uphold this thing, it didn't comply. For us, if you varied it, I think we're in a stronger basis. But at the end of the day, nobody is disputing the paramount of the intent of the code, which is what we are doing safe? Nobody's trying to get away from that. We understand what your job is as the board of review. We understand our position as a developer, but also the town's position in allowing us to develop in a certain way, which achieves the town goals as well, which is the conservation density goals that permitted us to get this far. But honestly, the most important thing for us is that we did have that site walk with that fire chief, and there was a determination by a fire inspector. I think those are the critical components here, as well as the civil engineering review that's gone on thus far. And that is our position as the owner of the subdivision.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I was just gonna do that. Okay, not seeing anyone else here live in the meeting room who would like to comment on this. Is there anyone attending this meeting remotely who would like to comment or ask questions regarding this application? Okay.
I think this guy's right.
Mr. Lyons, are you trying to comment? All right, you got to unmute your mic.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, just state your name for the record, please.
John Lyons. I'm an attorney with the firm of Grant and Lyons. Our legal address is P.O. Box 370, Rhinecliff, New York, 12572. I am along with Kim Garrison, I'm the counsel to the Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board.
Okay.
So I have just a few comments that will reflect the planning board's perspective on this. I just want to state for the record that the planning board is convinced of the safety of the proposed access road. It's been approved during the course of the review process by Fire Chief Kyle, Amy, the consulting engineers to the planning board. CPL did not express concerns to the board about safety. It was eventually approved by the planning board. We received the opinion of the fire inspector with regard to compliance with the fire code, and subsequent to the planning board's preliminary plat approval, the town of Rhinebeck Town Board approved an open development area for this subdivision and also expressed confidence about the safety of the road. I would point out that as long as safety isn't compromised, the town does not want huge roads that will disrupt the environment or the town's rural character, which the last time the town revised its comprehensive plan, that was the single quality about Rhinebeck that its residents, according to a survey, wanted to preserve going forward. The process that was followed in this case in consulting with the fire department, utilizing the assistance of the board's consulting engineer, is a process that's been followed for many years in Rhinebeck without any adverse incidents as a result. The fire department's done a very good job of identifying and making judgments about their ability to get their equipment in and out of roads on proposed new subdivisions or new developments. I can confirm that the town has no plans and no interest, frankly, in taking over the access roads. So this, for the board's purposes, you can assume that this is going to remain in private hands going forward. I'd also point out that in Mr. Tingley's presentation that he's calculating the maximum number of residences on this property based on the conservation easement, but that's not what has been approved here. As Mr. Ligori pointed out, there's only going to be 4 residences. That's what's being approved under this preliminary plat approval. And if there were going to be additional residences, the applicants for those changes would have to come back before the planning board. I'd also like to point out that Mr. Benetti's lived in his home for some time, and the existing driveway is not paved. The existing driveway is not 26 feet wide, and upon information and belief, he's never approached Mr. Duncanberg to ask to widen that driveway and pave that driveway. So that just leads me to question, the concerns about safety for this driveway. I submitted a letter to the board which set forth in detail the town's position on safety, and also with a lot more detail about conservation subdivision and the town's goals with regard to that, and how we would like subdivisions to be planned and the infrastructure to be in harmony with the environment and in harmony with the rural character of the town. And you have that letter before you. Thank you for the opportunity to participate.
Okay, Mr. Lyons, thank you. All right, is there anyone else joining us remotely who would like to comment or ask any questions regarding this application? Okay. We'll just go one more time. Mr. Tingley, I'll give you an opportunity to make any other comments.
Thank you. Again, Jonathan Tingley with Gilchrist Tingley, representing the petitioners. With respect to whether or not the Benetti home should be considered exempt from the count, the question under 511.1.1 is whether or not the lots at issue, the buildings at issue, and the driveway at issue were approved on a site plan prior to a particular threshold date. Although Mr. Benetti's home may have been there prior to that date, the remaining 4 lots and their principal residences were not, and those are all served. Mr. Benetti's home and those additional residences would be served by this common access road. So in our view, the number of buildings to be served by this common access road at a minimum is 5. In terms of whether or not a variance should be granted, I think from a procedural perspective, I'm not aware of a variance application having been formally made. If it was not made and the fee paid and the submission requirements undertaken for a complete record, that should be the procedure that's followed in the event the applicant wants to seek a variance. With respect to the former fire chief having approved the driveway, there was, as I understand it, a determination earlier in the process concerning the driveway. It was approximately a year before, or maybe slightly less than a year before, the email from the current fire chief that indicates that the requirements of Appendix D should be adhered to. And then finally, or two more points quickly. The uniform code is uniform and minimum requirements for the state, throughout the state for all municipalities. I don't think that a particular town's position on community character or environmental perspective should trump the minimum requirements of the fire code or the building code, unless there's specific authority to do that on that basis, and that's lacking here. And then finally, with respect to the comment that Mr. Benetti's driveway is not paved, it's not 26 feet wide, that's correct, and there's only one home served by it. Under this proposal, there will be 5 homes served by this common access drive, and that's what triggers the requirements to comply with Appendix D. And with that, I'll leave it to the board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tingley. Mr. LaGoria, I'd give you an opportunity to make any more comments.
No, not at this point.
Okay. All right, so,
I actually have a quick question.
okay.
I just had one question.
Okay.
So 2 different fire chiefs assessed that the road was at, or just one? Please.
Carl Duncanberg.
State your name.
Yeah, Carl Duncanberg. I'm the owner of the property. I believe, well, I know for a fact, I met with Chief Kyle Amy, who was the fire chief at the time, that the planning board requested a site visit by the fire department. He was also joined at that time, I believe, his second in command was Deputy Chief Bryant Knapp, who is now the current fire chief.
So he was already there.
So both of them have already been there. We walked every inch of what would become the cul-de-sac, the driveway, the existing portion of what is Mr. Benetti uses as his driveway currently, where the pull-offs would be, et cetera. And he wrote a letter to the planning board saying that he was fine with all of it. Then subsequently, for whatever reason, the planning board spoke to the then deputy chief, now chief. And because these issues, specifically because these issues with the 2020 fire code were raised by Mr. Benetti and Mr. Ely, and he, as I understood the letter that he responded with, basically was saying that this had already been handled and he would rather be left out of it. He's not responded to repeated recent calls for clarification. And all he really said was that fire apparatus access roads need to adhere to the specifications of Appendix D. I don't in any way see his letter as suggesting that he disagreed with his former boss.
Very fair. Well, that's really my only question. And yeah, that was it. Thank you.
Megan?
Yeah, I wanted to ask that if needing to meet the width for fire apparatus access road, how does that impact the development regarding the conservation subdivision?
It would be outside of what is accepted, actually, what's acceptable in terms of common driveways and conservation subdivisions to serve up to 6 lots, not buildings, up to 6 lots. They can be between 8 and 16 feet. We settled on 12 feet as a compromise between our highway department and the DEC, who became involved because we are for a short period going into a wetland buffer. Now, if a 26-foot road were required in this case, we would be into actual DEC wetlands as well as Army Corps regulated wetlands, and the impact would be immeasurably larger, and we would be back, as I'm sure the appellants realize, would be back in front of the DEC dealing with this. But they wanted no more than a 12-foot drive width in this case.
Okay, and then my second question was, would it also change the secret decision? And it
Certainly.
sounds as if, yes.
Yeah, so if there's a few concerns that are raised by the requirement to construct a 26-foot wide driveway. As Carl mentioned, well, procedurally, we'd have to go back to the planning board. We'd have to, first of all, redesign the subdivision to accommodate that there would be a proposed incursion into the DEC wetland. And the environmental review would have to, in addition to accommodate that potential environmental hazard, but also contemplate the actual clearance of the 50-foot right-of-way in order to construct that road, as well as additional stormwater measures that then would be triggered by virtue of the amount of disturbance that is proposed. So our stormwater regulations say if you're going to disturb permanently over, an acre of, have over a particular acreage of disturbance, not only do you have to capture stormwater, but you also have to treat stormwater. And so this 4-lot subdivision effectively becomes economically unfeasible. That's number one.
Like a full swing.
You have to do a full SWIP. That's right. And frankly, it's not worth it for 4 lots to have to do a full SWIP. If you're required to build a town road, you are going back to a traditional subdivision. You are disregarding the conservation subdivision. And effectively, this isn't the point here. This isn't what Carl was trying to do. But if you're doing this development for economic purposes only, you're doing a traditional subdivision now, because the cost to design, develop, maintain, build permanent stormwater measures necessitates that you generate enough income to offset that.
Thank you.
You good, Jane?
Good.
Okay. Yes, that's it. So we're going to go into deliberations.
Certainly.
And now we're going to go off the record.
We're on the record.
Okay, so we're back on the record. Megan, do you have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, with respect to the petition of Brian Benetti and Joe Eli, petition number 2023-0600. The petition pertains to an appeal of the code official's determination regarding the approval of subdivision of 4 lots located at Buttonwood Road, Town of Rhinebeck, County of Dutchess, New York State. The petitioner is appealing the determination of a code enforcement official regarding the application of 19 NYCRR Part 1225 Fire Code of New York State, sections 511.2.6, 503.1, 503.2.1, 503.2.2, and Appendix D, which state in summary that the fire code official may require or permit modifications to fire apparatus access road dimensions. The board makes the following findings. 1, subject petition pertains to the appeal of the local code enforcement official determination that the fire apparatus access road to the subject property is in compliance with the fire code. 2, applicants own dwellings near or substantially contiguous to the proposed subdivision and access drive. 3, subject property is currently in an ongoing Article 78 lawsuit with respect to its seeker determination and planning board preliminary subdivision approval. 4, applicants have requested that strict compliance with the cited fire code sections by reversing the determination, specifically regarding the width, which has been approved by local code and fire officials. 5, approved width is 12 feet where the fire code requires 24 feet for more than 4 buildings. 6, one applicant's dwelling will connect to new access road, which it is argued equals a total of 5 buildings over the threshold required for apparatus access roads in the fire code. 7, subject property owner and the planning board have each submitted rebuttals to applicants' assertions by their respective attorneys documenting the impacts and costs of a wider apparatus access road. 8, The local code officials, property owner, and planning board attorneys have been contacted in this matter and do not support the sustaining of the appeal under Part 1205. In view of the above findings, the board denies the appeal of the petitioner and therefore sustains the determination of the code enforcement official. Insufficient evidence has been provided to warrant reversing the determination of the code official. Wherefore, it is determined that the application appealing the determination of a code enforcement official is denied. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so before we vote, Mr. Tingley, do you understand the motion?
I do understand the motion.
Okay, you have any questions?
I don't have any questions.
All right, so now we're gonna vote individually. So a vote of aye is to deny the appeal and uphold the decision of the fire inspector. And a vote of no is to grant the appeal and overturn the decision of the fire inspector. Okay, so Shaheen,
Aye.
Megan,
Aye.
Shane,
No.
and I vote aye.
Thank you very much.
So,
Thank you.
so that's it. We're off the record.
We're off the